Thank you very much. And actually, on behalf of all of us, it's an honor to follow you, Marcia, and we thank you for your leadership of the academies at this moment in history when we need great leadership. Steve Fienberg, at his death on December 14, 2016, was University Professor of Statistics and Social Science at Carnegie Mellon University. He was elected to the National Academies of Science in 1999. Throughout his career, as many of us in this room know, he was a contributor in both theory and practice in diverse subfields of statistics, and later in his life to the field of machine learning. He was an academy's rat, if there's such a term. He was here all the time, it seems like. Every time I entered this building, he seemed to be here. He served on over 30 panels, and in an act of sheer altruism, he was part of the report review process for 12 years. I can't imagine a greater service to the Academy. He was a mentor, as was mentioned already, to many, with over 40 students who are now contributing to the field in universities throughout the world. He was especially important, in my opinion, to the growth of women PhD-level statisticians. His mentees are now generating a new pipeline of women statisticians. He co-founded with Bill Eddy a popular magazine in statistics called Chance, and this was a quite deliberate effort to increase statistical literacy in the wider population. He had one of the broadest perspectives on how statistics as a field can benefit society that I know, from forensic science to cognitive psychology to the law. I met him when I was a pretty young survey methodologist at the University of Michigan. He was part of a consortium of researchers from around the world, actually, attempting to redesign the National Crime Victimization Survey. And this is a study that attempts to have individuals like us report whether we've been victimized by a crime, whether or not we reported that victimization to the police. So it's an important social indicator. Steve was constantly pushing the group to enrich the survey with more and more sophisticated modeling approaches to improve the indicators. That group was filled with outsized personalities. Steve fit in perfectly. I still remember as a young man listening to these older guys shouting at one another about matters of statistical properties of indicators. And then when we went to dinners later, the same individuals would try to one-up each other on mentioning obscure vineyards in various countries of the world that produce wine that sometimes had only been tasted by 5 people, including themselves. Later, I was part of a Social Science Research Council group that Judy Tanner and Steve led, and this was a deliberate attempt for bringing a new field to bear. The initiative was labeled the Cognitive Aspects of Survey Methodology, spelled CASM or CASM, which was a joke on an attempt to merge 2 fields that had to be bridged together. Without Steve, that initiative, I don't think, would have amounted to much of anything. And then later, Steve was a key character in the Academy's board called the Committee on National Statistics, which I later joined. And when I joined, Steve had been off the committee for several years, but he seemed to be at every meeting. So he was there urging the group to be more active, to seek more influence, and to be wider and wider in its scope. So Steve was a curious man about things he didn't know much about applications of his knowledge of statistical theory in new ways. He was always looking at two unlike distinct domains of knowledge as potentially synergistic. He was bold and courageous and outlandish at times. His confidence had no bounds. He believed that he could master new fields quickly and see how statistics could enrich them. He always had a sense of innovation, of challenging the current commonly accepted knowledge. He, I believe, was uniquely effective in his career because he was constantly reaching out to others, and he respected them for their individual expertise and quite perceptively saw connections among knowledge domains that others couldn't see. So he ended up contributing fundamentally both to the field of statistics, but to broader human understanding of the world. He was constantly pushing an organization to do better, pushing a new point of view on an old problem, pushing two fields together that couldn't understand one another. And we will all miss that pushing. There are many cultures throughout the world that believe as long as the living have memories of you, you too live on. And with this belief, certainly Steve is living still, and he'll be here these next 2 days. And I suspect he will live on for many, many, many decades.